Hello and welcome to Pellicar. This is Nuts and Bolts, episode 15, part 3 in a masterclass of fantasy economics, alternatively titled Econoria, part 3. This is a show where we talk about fantasy world building as it pertains to RPGs, storytelling, and the realm of Pellicar in particular. I'm your guide, Lewis Nichols. I've been developing this world for more than 3 decades. During that time, I've done all the cool stuff. I've run some great campaigns, played a little Magic the Gathering, and flown to space numerous times. That is, if you count science victories in Civilization. I've owned a comic shop and traded in display-worthy fantasy weapons. I haven't done it all, but I've done a lot. Does this wealth of experience make me an expert? In some cases, I'm confident I can say so. In others, not so much. Today, however, we're talking about fantasy economics, and on this one, you can trust me. Over the first 2 parts of this series, we've talked about general concepts in economics. We've talked about the real world. We've talked about a few movies. We've managed not to talk about Star Trek. We've talked about potential campaign worlds. In all cases, we've talked about why economics is important to the world and to character development. Today, finally, after thousands of words deep into a 2,000-word script, we are going to discuss the economics of Dresden's Tale. Okay, settle down. Thank you very much. We're going to do all this with focus and direction. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up through the social strata of the Keld society. Our first case study is Dianico Strat Bsarin, renamed Mary because no Keld can pronounce that shit. And yes, that's racist, but we are the bad guys. This human child was taken in raids against her fishing village, survived the long trek to Cadiz, and spent 2 years in the camps. She came out more or less psychologically intact, a prole with the skill of woodworking, but little else to offer. Mary didn't notice the first economic transaction she was ever involved in. It was her. Somebody ticked off a box and suddenly she was doomed clan. One little mark in the records to keep the tally sheet balanced between the clans. A little splash of credit onto the books for the militia who captured her in the first place. And one more prole added to the rolls. Moving to the doomed settlement of Fort Chuck in Arista was the last great journey of Mary's tumultuous life. Once there, she became Mary Steiner, or Mary Blue, for the color of dress she was given upon joining the house. Now, this first part is more about Mary being a prole than any direct economic implications. The reason is, in her entire life, she never really much sees anything to do with financial transactions. That, and I'll never pass up a chance to talk about what it means to be a prole in the clans. Within a week, Mary starts a routine that she will stick to for most of her life. She wakes early, she sees to the egg lizards, she helps with breakfast, she gathers laundry, watches the house children, helps with lunch, then spends the afternoon in the town woodshop. She comes home to help with dinner and relaxes in the evening, then goes to bed. Despite never seeing coin, she is part of the house and town's economic life. The things she produces are allocated at the discretion of the mayor. Some goes to the chief of the clan, but most stays in town. It's not paid for per se, nor are the things the Steiners draw from town reserves. The town is mostly communal, any disputes solved by the right of strength. Is Mary exploited? Maybe. Many proles are, and in the worst ways. She could have left the house, but she would have had to have joined another. If she left and no one took her, she would become a ward of the local political head, in this case, the mayor. And of course, proles who leave houses are generally looked at as troublemakers, and many masters are certainly harsh. Once a year, a priest of Biona comes around and tries to talk all the town's proles into picking up the club and becoming warriors, but that's not for Mary. You could argue that she's brave and tough just for surviving the things she's been through in her life, but never once has she imagined standing up to somebody in combat. She might even say she's happy where she's at. She's not sexually exploited in the house and has to work at it to find companionship. That is, until she's married. Even then, it's with a man she finds acceptable and falls in love with him just after a few months of being married. They give the house 2 children before he dies years later on a military campaign. She was always given lodging, food, clothing. When the house entertains, she's allowed to wear simple jewelry and never forced into doing sex work for the guests. She finds her work in the shop fulfilling and gains a sense of worth and comfort in the strong faith of her community. She never once in her entire life had to spend coin or bargain for anything. Her husband did. While he was alive, Mark the Bold, usually just Little Boulder or LB as he was slight in stature, he was a guardsman for the House Steiner. There's a lot of names for warriors of this status: wall walker, armsman, weapons bearer, and so on. He was not a Steiner by blood, but joined the house for the stability it offered. His own parents were proles, and he didn't feel ready to found his own house. LB never exactly owned anything in his life, but then again, neither did Master Steiner. As members of the Doomed clan, all the wealth they controlled was actually the property of their chief. In practice, no one ever bothered LB for the things he possessed, except once he had a nice pair of boots and another warrior challenged him for them and won. But other than that, his sword, his armor, it was all his to use again and again, as was the furniture in the little room over the barracks he was given after agreeing to marry his wife. Unlike Mary, LB was keenly aware of the financial world they lived in. The business of the house was bricks, and not just bulk crap, but fancy stuff for decorative walkways and monument facades. Year after year, summer after summer, LB would take trips with the house teamsters, escorting loads across clan territory and beyond. In his travels, a Doomed clan tavern never denied him hospitality, though they might have if he wanted more than a beer and a bed in the common room. Just in case, the master always made sure he had a few bits in his pocket to cover the bill. These came in especially handy when he ventured outside of clan territory. Okay, what's a bit? A bit is the basic denomination of money in Keld lands. It's a penny-sized fleck of minted silver, usually with a cheese face on one side and the parrot of Santa on the other. So if you ask the shopkeeper, "How much for that lantern?" he's not going to say $10, and he's not going to say a gold piece. He's going to say, that'll be 3 bits, but you're House Steiner, so we have a contract with you. I'll make a note, but it's no charge. Little Boulder would have run into this a lot. His house participated in the general economic life around Fort Chuck. The nearby farm was raising a barn. Someone from the house was there to help. If the new jewelry shop in town needed a wall put up, they showed up, bricks and all. If the clan was moving cattle through the area, they came to wrangle. Time to improve the town walls, dig a drainage ditch, or do anything someone from the house was capable of helping with, they were there. And the town was always there for them. Furthermore, the house provided warriors to fight for the clan. The plunder from that warfare, or new resources from conquered lands, in part, came to the city and the family itself. If their blacksmiths needed iron, they could request delivery from clan stores. The same goes for wood, stone, or any other resource. Yes, LB generally carried a little pouch of silver, but it was pretty much only used when he traveled far from home. The complicated stuff was handled by his friend, Isolde Steiner. Isolde was family by blood and smart as smart as something really smart. From an early age, she showed an interest in the family business, and after a couple years campaigning with a paramilitia, she learned the skills to be formally known as an executor. For an executor, everything can be boiled down to numbers. Every afternoon Mary Blue spent in the wood shop had value. Every cart of bricks the family handed over to the town stores of building materials added up to a number. She knew how to calculate them and how to use them to grow the house. In her mid-20s, Shortly after little Boulder was killed in battle on the distant plain of Erdishan, she reached her stride. A long talk with her father established a new dynamic for the family, with her running daily operations while he remained as its head. What did she have to bargain? Herself. As a warrior, she could have and would have left the family to establish her own house, but under her father's banners, she had a head start. As far as Master Steiner was concerned, he won all the way around. He kept his little girl close while watching his grandchildren find their way in a warrior's world. Isolde strengthened the context binding the houses closest to her father's. A principle was established that one would only succeed if they all succeeded, and they pushed forward with a new, ambitious agenda. During this escalation, Isolde brought ever-increasing amounts of clan resources under her control. In turn, she invested that wealth into the greatest resource of all, converts. She and her wife used their position to bring 6 children from the ages of 3 to 13 into the family. Along with them came new shepherds, new guardsmen, and all the labor they provided. As the family grew, as it demonstrated stability and consistent growth over years, another powerful economic tool entered her arsenal: the writ. A writ is paper money, usually in the form of a contract backed by labor. It is transferable and negotiable, and if it sounds volatile, it is. Isolde issued her first writ in the town of Clayton, a place where the family's bricks went at an extremely reduced rate just because of all the local brickmakers. To purchase 5 wagons and a set of steel plate for her father, she handed the vendor a sheet of paper promising 200 hours of Steiner House labor. It gave her a little bit of a rush. That little promissory note worked its way around Arista for years. It was broken up twice and ended up in a portfolio of several houses along the way. A part of it was paid off when a group of Maraudin clan warriors needed a place to stay for a week. Another bit was liquidated by a military service, and finally, Isolde was able to buy back the last 100 hours for a cartload of polished bricks at a very favorable rate. In the overall scheme of things, writs are usually issued to make up the difference in a trade. Look, man, all I've got for trade is this horse, but I really need your cart of blueberries. Ah, fine. We'll cover the difference in a writ. Over time, writs sometimes end up in the possession of other clans and are often traded back to the issuing clan in bulk deals. These might later be torn up in exchange for service or an abdication of converts. It's almost always behind the scenes and almost always peacefully bureaucratic. However, there's always a house or two that overextends itself and crumbles when the bills come due. This is an absolute allegory to bank loans and credit cards and all the risks apply. Time to review. What have we learned? First of all, in Dresden's time, for most citizens of the Empire, wealth isn't a big stressor. Sure, you're dirt poor, but you have no bills. In times of plenty, you probably don't even have to work that hard. If your job is making chairs and you've just raided a village, odds are somebody looted some free chairs. If they stole some livestock with it, you're living the good life for a while. Even for warriors, there isn't a lot of financial concerns. If you do well, kill bad guys, generate wealth for the clan, produce goods through your trades, and are generally a positive influence within the social weave of your community, you will be provided for. You'll receive clan armor, weapons, and magic. Even if you're the master of your own house, you might not have to worry about balancing the books. If you have a good executor, you might have to make a few decisions directing your guy, but for you, it can be as hands-off as you want it to be. As a writer, creator, a GM, etc., it's the same. You don't have to have a panic every time the character wants to acquire new things. If the Steiners want to acquire 1,000 acres from their neighbors, the Borks, it's a simple exchange of controlled clan property. You can just say 10,000 bits and make some marks on a sheet. Or you can keep track of commodities and time the markets. You see, Isolde has been building up quite the herd of goats for a while now, and recent bad winters in the north have driven up prices. It's time to buy. What was 6,000 bits worth of goats a year ago will now trade for lands that list for 10,000 bits. It's a good thing, too, because the new silver mines just opened in Kodos. Silver's down 20%. Again, I'm not advising that you bog yourself down too much, but there are role-playing and world-building opportunities here. So what if somebody wants to run a campaign in this economic system? My first thought is that the system I'm describing is not impossibly linked to the Keld culture. At its base is tribalism. It's just more developed and complicated because I've spent years tinkering with all the connective tissue behind economy, governance, culture, and so forth. You can apply the ideas of social tribalism to other cultures. It might be a fight at first, but you too can create a truly unique quagmire that takes endless YouTube episodes to explain. I think the hardest part of presenting this system to players is the lack of ownership. You haven't seen it much in Dresden's Tale yet, but this is an extremely authoritarian system. While individual initiative is encouraged, you still answer to the chief. Why? Because he'll kill you if you don't. And if you kill him, now you're stuck running the whole clan. So what's the hard part? Well, when a group of warriors liberates a treasure hoard, it's not theirs. That list of treasure the GM just handed you? Take a look at it, smile, then hand it back. The clan is giving you everything you have. They've trained you, they've fed you, they've taken care of you when you were sick. It's time to pay them back. Magical sword? See you later. There is an upside. If you've done all the right things, then you're going to occasionally receive clan magic in return. In theory, it's going to work out about the same, and you can make the politics of it part of the world you have created. But what about corruption? Does it exist? Absolutely, and at a high frequency. Warriors don't report fines, they pocket silver. There is a black market in just about everything a person could want. Clan executors play favorites when assigning property. Masters hold back proles that want to be warriors, and skilled warriors who want to spend more time out on missions. Oh, but there are some wonderful solutions to corruption in the Keld Empire. If I'm a 5th level broadsword heavy warrior, and I see Dumbo has just been given a magical sword because he's boinking the right executor, I've got recourse. The right of strength, baby. In Keld lands, might makes right. That sword is clan property, and if I can prove I can use it better than Dumbo can, it becomes mine. Same thing goes for just about every piece of property and every position of power, as long as the challenging warrior has standing. In other words, a mace specialist can't challenge for a broadsword, and a stoneworker can't challenge for magical woodworking tools. This doesn't just go for adventuring gear. You see, years later, there's a new Master Bork. His son's taken over, and after years on the frontier, he wants that land back. But the house isn't exactly in a position to pay for it. Yet, he has every right to challenge. A group of town elders, perhaps the mayor and a few head priests, will consider the matter. They'll make any determination of rules, or might even rule that the Bork family, in fact, does not have standing. In house versus house matters, it's generally going to be champions facing off, but ultimately, it's just a matter of, I can take your stuff because I'm stronger. Okay, so what if the committee was corrupt and decided against House Bork? To be perfectly honest, the Borks could just occupy the land, kill off a few of the defending guards, and put up the house colors. It's not like a lot of local fuss is going to be made. This is a warrior's world. It might not have happened officially, but they proved themselves the stronger house, and most people would be willing to let it sit. Now, how is this possibly sustainable? Well, first of all, bullying is a sin. If somebody is recognized as pushing their weight around a little too much, challenging for things they don't need, can't use, or don't deserve, they're going to be ostracized. And there's almost always, somebody around that's a little bit bigger, and eventually a bully is going to get what they deserve. And then there's the idea that maybe it's not sustainable. It's recognized even in Dresden's earliest years of adventuring that if Kelds ever run out of enemies, they'll turn on themselves in a matter of years. In 2051, there's nothing to fight over. There's unclaimed land by the millions of acres, and lots of it close to clan centers. There are more promising mine sites than there are miners to dig them. Wild horses range Arista, along with cattle. Nobody could even guess how many millions of deer roam the forests north of the Trojan Mountains. Someday, this time of plenty will end, but that day is not today. It's time to thank you all for joining me on this adventure. I feel like I've been working on the economic episodes for about 1,000,000 years now. Is there going to be an episode 4? Not soon, but if the station continues, I'm sure it will happen someday. This is where you control the direction of the channel. Leave comments. What would you like to see? What did you hate? What did I miss? We can talk about it in the comments, but your needs will guide the future episodes of Nuts and Bolts. In the meantime, my hope is sometime after you're seeing this, I'll start posting Season 2, which is going to take a lot of work, but I'm there for you. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, feel free to check out my selections on Amazon for Kindle readers, and join me on Twitter. I promise that if I get a few more followers, I'll start using it occasionally. As always, the important thing is what you've already done, and I'm very glad that you chose to spend a little time with me here on YouTube. Until next time, I hope you all have an absolutely wonderful day.